And here's a gentleman right here. I'll give this mic to.
Jackson Koo, AT&T. Hi, Glenn. What kind of applications and services that really demands a 4G speed that is not capable serving by the HSPA Plus system today?
I'll start there. There's none.
Is he on your team?
No. I don't even like him. No. Look, when you start talking about HSPA Plus, you start talking about 5-6 megabits per second, and I'll ask anybody in the room, what can't you do with 6 megabits per second? I mean, you can do HD video, you can stream, you can do there's really nothing you can't do. Now you start getting into LTE and you start saying, okay, now you start getting to 12, 15 megabits per second. Is there all kinds of cool things? Yeah, if you build it, the applications builders will build stuff for that, right? It will come. So today at HSPA Plus speeds, I'd argue today at HSPA speeds, and you're talking about a megabit and a half, you can pretty much do what you want, right? You start getting into 5 and 6, I don't know of any applications today that I'm really worried about. Now, I want the efficiencies of LTE as a carrier. I want the cost metrics, right, which everybody wants because you can do different rate structures. And I want that 10, 11, 12 megabits per second because there will be more cool stuff that happens. But reality is HSPA Plus is plenty for what we're trying to do.
I have an actually slightly different view of that. I don't think that you can build the network fast enough. There's going to be increased appetite. We all suffer from ADD. It has to be faster, 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 and I don't think the network can ever be. There's always going to be an appetite in the marketplace for you all to go 4G, 5G, 6G. I don't think it's possible to kind of reach a ceiling there. You're going to want it faster. You're going to want that. I get impatient when the YouTube thing takes 30 seconds to load. Just don't do it. So.
We need to teleport.
Yeah.
Panels would be so much easier to coordinate.
Yeah.
I just remember when people didn't know what they can do with the T1 speed on the network. I can see connected devices moving into infotainment type of solutions where you can have streaming audio, streaming video, and as mentioned earlier, if you have a device that can handle different applications, say for example in your automobile, on the screen of your automobile, maybe using it for your navigation system, then using it for streaming video because your kids wants to watch a movie. And one thing that you'll be able, hopefully in the future, do is having different plans and different businesses for those two solutions on the same device, being able to bill the owner of the car for navigation system on different rate because you're using a very low data rate, and at the same time being able to get the premium for streaming video to him. So from a business point of view, you also can get different type of margins for different type of applications.
Okay, we have a gentleman with a microphone right here.
Hi, thank you. It's Brian Oliver Smith with Urban Planet Mobile. So I see things like automotive, and I see smart networks with connecting in the home. I also see a lot of entertainment and gaming, which is outstanding. The question that I have is, how do we start a conversation around education? And does that leadership in that conversation, does it start with the device manufacturer, the application and software in that sense, or the application, or with the networks? Because it's going to probably take some leadership. So I guess that's how do we start that conversation around education, and where does that come from?
Education is in the education market, or education about, oh.
Education, and you're addressing it in the automotive, you're addressing it in gaming, you're addressing it in...
So it's already happening. I think, and your question is a good one in the sense that it takes everybody. One of the issues you have, and I'll just start with the college campus, right? One of the issues you have is every single kid on that campus has a phone. Every single kid on that campus, at the same time in the day goes hit send. And so we as carriers have to work very closely with the colleges to make sure we deliver Wi-Fi and the total networks that they need. What you're really starting to see it start is around the e-readers. You're starting to see it start with we want to save this planet and not have to have $800 of textbooks every quarter, and why can't we do it all through electronic? And so there's a couple of initiatives that I've been involved with. I've been involved with Apple on a couple. I've been involved with Amazon on a couple. But we need everybody to want to play. Believe it or not, and I'm not going to say who, but there are book companies out there don't want that to happen. Right? They want them to kill more trees so that they can get more books and make more money, and so they haven't allowed their books to go digital. And so there's a whole bunch of muck in this. But to your point, there's a lot of discussions. We're working right now with a few players that are in I'll say the more younger space with educational toys, and how those toys can be wirelessly connected and then updated, and the child can then work with the internet to do things they want to do. So there's a lot of folks thinking about it, looking at it, and you're right, it probably should be on my chart. Scott, fix that, okay? But it is something that is happening today, and really we have verticals inside of our ABS organization that are very focused on it, and I don't think we can go fast enough. So it's a great question.
I think probably more of a political issue than anything else. It's not the technology, it's making kind of the entrenched interests that are running the education system make that happen. But I think one place that you might see it more in K through 12 is in rural broadband, where you get these places where you're out there and you're trying to deliver better education, better delivery. That you'll probably see it in rural areas as opposed to electronic delivery quicker than you'll see it. I'm talking K through 12 now, not the universities, because the universities probably move faster. Probably see it there more than you will in other areas.
I was just going to add that there's some really interesting iPhone apps. For example, the iPhone really took off in the education space, and so there's some great stuff, people using that. Let me move to this gentleman here.
I guess it's on. Vikram Krishnamurthy, Wireless Consulting. My question is with regard to enterprise applications and Android, primarily security issues. Two facets. One is with regard to a lot of rogue applications that could potentially bring down a network and what carriers can do in terms of thinking about that. And is there any competitive advantage that a carrier can have in terms of trying to enhance security with Android, or is that primarily just in the marketplace?
Can I ask Mike to take a first shot at that, coming from the kind of infrastructure and asset management point of view?
Well, I mean, for us, dealing with commercial applications, when we use various operating systems, it's a pretty controlled environment. So security for us is around data security, particularly, the wireless aspect of it. And so knowing where people are is fairly sensitive. Knowing where various things are and when they got there is fairly sensitive. And so keeping these applications fairly secure, both in terms of what they're transmitting and what people can get out of these applications, is important. We do the best we can in working with all of the various security technologies that are there, but ultimately, if they have core issues, that's the guys who are developing operating systems. It goes back to the ecosystem problem of, if you inherently don't have secure systems, you won't be one of the market leaders, particularly in spaces where security is particularly important.
If I may, but Android is not secure, but it is one of the market.
What are you doing about that, Glenn?
Sure. So a couple things. First of all, right now, if you look at, let's just talk about the whole application marketplace and the guys that are supposed to be secure, whether you got 300,000 apps with Apple and 100,000 in Android. We have very strong relationships with both, obviously, and they each have their own sets of rules. We obviously have an agreement with them of things they're going to do to protect us and vice versa. The one thing that's interesting that Apple obviously is a bit more closed, the way that Phil and the team run that is different. Android is a bit more open, but it is very well policed. And one of the things that I like about it is, in the way that Andy's going about it, is we have agreements, they have ways they approve stuff, they check them out, and do rogue ones get through? Absolutely, you're correct. But they're off and gone very quickly, and that application's developer kind of just disappears, right? They get, it's kind of, I mean,
An Italian guy shows up at your house.
Yeah. I didn't say, it's not a matter of us, because remember, Android is being built for all carriers. I mean, but I mean by disappears, I mean it's self-policed, right? That team at Google needs to keep their reputation at a certain level. If all of a sudden you have a bunch of applications that don't work well or cause harm, first of all, the carriers are all going to go nuts. That's one. Two, the customers don't like it, which then force people to Android to get a bad rep. And I don't think you've seen a lot on the blogs about rogue apps that have caused major problems. I think your point's well taken. There are more openings there than there are in others. But the thing that you don't do, and just you buy off the Android marketplace, you buy out of the App Store, you go to some random site and you buy something and slap it in your device, good luck. Because then that is not being policed by anybody.
So I'm just going to pick up a little bit to what Glenn's saying on the consumer space, and if we have another questioner, we'll move on. But to what Mike was saying, security is a big deal. What the carrier can do in that is offer solutions that provide security tools, like mobile device management tools as a service. So I think the carriers, I find this actually an area in the market where the technology's been around for a while, but the customers haven't, they've understood it, but there's been a learning curve. But then the volumes and demand hasn't been a big threat, so it's been a hypothetical threat. Now, with the proliferation of incredible powerful devices, with access to the full corporate apps, it's becoming a real threat. So I think you can expect to see carrier-provided solutions to give the enterprise customer certainly the tools to protect themselves. So do we have another question right by Bob? Thank you.
Tom Vigilette, Aero Wireless. First off, I thought it was a Scotsman that was the rogue enforcer. So, Michelle, you brought up a point of devices going out in the field for 20 years, and it makes a lot of sense. But who knows where we are in 2031? 9G, 10G, God knows what. So, are you guys going to, is AT&T or other carriers, from your understanding, going to continue to support a GPRS device working in a telematics environment 20 years from now? How backwards compatible does that?
Michelle's going to build them, but we're not going to support them. No.
Thanks a lot.
No, I think, look, networks have a life, right? We've sunsetted some in the past. We work very closely with Michelle and we make sure we understand what it is. One of the things you got to also think about that's very, very critical when you're building any OEM is you got to think about backwards compatibility, obviously. You also got to think about future-proofing going forward. And so we work very closely and with our partners about what network are they on, where are they, what's the next step, what kind of applications do they see, and we try to future-proof. And we've got lots of great partners, Qualcomm's in the room, others that we sit down with them and bring them in and make sure that we're thinking ahead. But Michelle went a little crazy on 20 years. But if you start talking 5, 8, 10-year devices, yeah, we expect that on a smart grid is going to be there for a while, and we have to make sure we future-proof that for that customer. And if you don't, then you better make it upgradable and those types of things too. So your point's excellent.
So I would say that there are instances where utility business case and public utility commissions and rate recovery processes do require the buyers, who are the utilities in many of smart grid instances, to have incredibly long asset life. And I think that's one of the reasons why this isn't just about, no offense, one carrier's data pipe, any one carrier's data network or data pipe. It's about networking networks together, and it's about peering devices together. I don't think there is going to be one technology or network solution for smart grid. I think there will be several, and some of those may be private, some of those may be legacy. But in any event, those devices need to be somewhat standards-based. They have to have ability to connect to each other. They have to have some distributed intelligence. And for those that need that 20-year asset life, which we do have to contract to it, so there are instances where people do need to do that. Or maybe there's other parts of the grid that don't need 20-year asset life, that can live with a 7-year depreciation on systems. All of that, those metrics in the utility market are changing today. But you can build it with private technology solutions, you can build it with public technology solutions. I just don't think there's going to be a single answer.
Swapping all this stuff out is kind of a pain in the neck, too. I mean, businesses are trying to put that deployment risk out onto us as employees in many cases, and it's nice to think that you're always going to go out and get the prettiest new device that whoever makes, but the reality is there's only so much appetite to switch out devices, and the cost of deployment, cost to educate, in your case, cost to kind of get out and change the meters. There's a huge, not so hidden cost there. So I'm not sure we're ever going to get to a point. You might like that, I guess, but not ever going to get to a point where the devices swatch out every 6 months or so.
One thing you can also look at from a software point of view, at least it would be good to have a plan where you can do remote upgrades to your systems. So at least keep the software up to speed for the standards and stay.
Maybe we'll go with one last question from the audience. Do we have?
Neil Jagoda, AT&T customer. My question is...
Don't ask about the network.
Yes, Neil.
My question is, can you help me understand why today is different from 10 years ago when Qualcomm and Ford come out with Wingcast for telematics and it goes belly up? What's different today in that market?
Well, first of all, the Qualcomm guys aren't very smart. So. No, I love my Qualcomm buddies are right here. I'm kidding. I think the difference, and I think I said it earlier when I was, we really have, and I'll use the term again, ecosystem kind of all playing, right? And you think about, first of all, networks, the cost of the networks, the ability what the networks can do are there, right? The cost of the modules are getting better. They're reasonable to the point where we are. The applications are there. And maybe most important, everybody, whether it's a car manufacturer or a carrier, or they all want this. They're all focused on it. The focus was different, and there were many things before their time. Obviously, I've got a nice relationship with the Apple guys. The Newton, remember that? Okay, the Newton was brilliant. It was how many years before its time? The networks weren't there, the costs weren't there, the handwriting record. You can go on and on. Now, Steve can get up here and talk about that for days because but it was right. It was just early. And I think what we've got happening now, and I've got tons of them over the last 20 years I've been in the wireless business, what's happening now is you have the focus there, it's the growth area. The car OEMs want it bad. They need that next great thing. One of the things that's driving by with the car business is the electric cars. Because the OEMs are so nervous that you buy an electric car, you got to know how much juice you got left. They want to do all that through mobility. They want to do all that through your smartphone. They want to give you that ability to find the powering station. So a lot of technology has driven what I would call the stars being aligned around this for everybody to go make a run at it. And I think your example there, it was early, not instant success. I'm moving on, sunk costs, I'm going over here. And I think now you're not going to see that. You're going to see everybody diving in together. And one of the other things I'll throw out, and this is maybe me being Pollyannish a little bit, is we're better at partnering than we used to be. I'm talking about this whole world. I mean, I sit on a stage with my counterparts and my competitors all the time who do what I do at Verizon. They're good guys. We compete. But when we talk about how we work with Qualcomm, even though I make fun of them, and how we work with BMW, we announced as our new partner we're going to be behind what they're doing. We're doing a much better job of working together as an industry to bring these great products and services to customers, better than I think we did 10 years ago.
I would like to wrap up, because we're going to wrap up after this. But one last question. I want to help you, Glenn. So this is.
Do I need help? I need help. I do, obviously.
Yeah. A little bit of business management help. You set your team's target for 2013 at 500% penetration. So you get to sit this question out. Beautiful. Because what we're going to do is I'm going to count to 3, and the 4 remaining panelists will either do thumbs up or thumbs down, and then you're going to tell me why you think it's either going to be bigger than 500 or less than 500% penetration in 2013. And then, Glenn, you'll be able to use that to drive your team's performance in the next couple of years. All right. So I'm going to count to 3, and then you do thumb up or thumb down. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Wow. Glenn, I've never heard this said about you that you're too generous before. So, Mark, what's it going to be if it's going to be bigger than 500?
I think that our appetite for devices is going to continue to be kind of insatiable. You're going to come out with the next great thing, and there's going to be a tablet or a new laptop or a new device, and there's going to be all these different task-specific devices, perhaps, that we don't think about right now. And it's going to drive more demand, and I think you've got a low target there.
Great. Michelle?
So wireless connected devices, not talking specific network, absolutely.
2 power meters on every house.
Think about network sensors. Think about a wireless sensor on every distribution transformer, every capacitor bank, every fault circuit indicator. Think about smart appliances connected in every home or in many more homes, let's say. I think it's an easy go.
Great. Ziad?
Yeah, I agree. It's the basic math. Once you see the value of connecting devices and sharing information, you're going to have more and more devices connected to have more intelligent solutions.
Mike?
Yes, I agree with everybody else. I mean, we see it in our own business where we have a field worker. We're monitoring his vehicle. He has a phone with him. He has a work tool of some sort that's connected. He's got 3 or 4, 5, 6 devices that are all connected just for him to do his job. And so that doesn't even add, his home life and everything else that's involved.
Great. Well, I want to say thank you to all of our panelists. Please join me in thanking them.
Yes. Thank you.